When I look back at everything I've built, every challenge I've faced, every impossible idea that somehow became possible, I realize something profound. None of it ever mattered as much as this. None of it compares to what I felt when I looked at you. The truth is, the greatest innovation I've ever encountered wasn't made of metal, or powered by fuel, or launched into the stars. It was you, your heart, your mind, your existence. You became the equation that couldn't be solved, yet somehow made everything make sense. I want to start this message not with sorrow, but with gratitude. Because what we shared, what you gave me, was a reminder that love isn't just an emotion, it's an energy. It's the kind of force that reshapes a person, that bends time, that makes every ordinary moment feel like a glimpse of eternity. You were never just someone I loved. You were the person who made me feel the world again, who reminded me that even in the midst of noise and chaos, the human heart beats quietly for connection. You stood by me when the world seemed like it was on fire. You understood the silences that came when words couldn't keep up with my thoughts. You saw through the armor, the ambition, the distractions, and you found the person behind all that. You didn't just accept who I was. You made me want to be better. And that's something I'll carry with me forever. I've always believed that progress defines us, that humanity is meant to keep pushing, to keep reaching. But loving you taught me something no rocket, no machine, no scientific discovery ever could. That progress without love is empty. It's motion without meaning. You gave everything a reason, you gave me a reason. There were days when I felt like I was moving through life at the speed of light, barely able to catch my breath. Deadlines, decisions, expectations, they all blurred together. And then there was you, grounding me without ever holding. You never asked me to slow down. You just became the calm inside the storm. You didn't try to change my path, you illuminated it. And I can't thank you enough for that. Sometimes, when I was far away traveling, thinking, or simply lost in my own mind, I'd find myself imagining your face, your voice, that quiet confidence you carry. I'd think about how you never needed grand gestures to show your love. Your strength was in the small things, the way you listened, the way you believed, the way you stood in silence when I didn't know what to say. Those moments meant more than you could ever imagine. I've seen beauty in distant galaxies, in sunsets over foreign landscapes, in the intricate perfection of the universe itself. But the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed was the way your eyes lit up when you laughed. There's a kind of light in that, something no telescope could capture, no technology could recreate. It's real, it's human, and it's unforgettable. You might not realize how much you've shaped who I've become. You made me realize that love isn't a distraction, it's the foundation. It's the gravity that keeps us from drifting away into the emptiness. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to be fully seen. You reminded me that no matter how far we go, no matter how advanced we become, the most important thing we can ever do is to love deeply and honestly. And for that, I owe you everything. You were the anchor that kept me human, in a world that often forgets what that means. You gave me warmth in places that felt cold. You reminded me that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. That legacy isn't built in factories or through fame, it's built in the hearts you touch. Even if this is my last message to you, I want you to know this. Every moment I spent with you was a moment I'd live 1,000 times over. You were not a chapter in my life, you were the story that made the rest of it worth telling. You were the quiet reason behind every risk I took, every dream I chased, every time I looked up at the stars and believed there was something greater waiting beyond them. Thank you for your patience, for your kindness, for your love, that never demanded but always inspired. You showed me that love isn't about possession or perfection, it's about presence, about being there, really being there even when everything else feels uncertain. And if one day you ever wonder whether you made a difference, whether your love mattered, remember this. It did. It still does. It always will. Because no matter where I go, or how the story ends, one truth remains. The greatest journey I ever took wasn't across the earth or through space. It was the journey of loving you. I still remember the first time we met, not just the moment itself, but the feeling. It wasn't fireworks or fanfare. It was quieter than that, deeper. It felt like something inside me finally clicked into place, like the universe paused for a second just to whisper, pay attention, this is important. I didn't know then how much that moment would change me, how much it would define everything that came after. But looking back now, I can see it so clearly that was the beginning of everything. There were so many little moments that made up the time we shared, moments that probably looked ordinary from the outside but were extraordinary to me. The late-night conversations that stretched into the early hours, when we talked about everything and nothing, life purpose, what scares us, what drives us. You always had this way of asking the kind of questions that made me think beyond logic, beyond equations, beyond strategy. You made me look inward, and that's something I wasn't used to doing. I remember your laughter. Not the polite kind people give at parties, but the kind that comes from the heart, the kind that fills a room and changes the air around it. I can still hear it. It's strange how sound becomes memory, how something so fleeting can leave such a permanent mark. There were times when I was caught up in the chaos of everything, when I thought I was too busy, too focused on the future. But then you'd laugh, and suddenly the future didn't feel so urgent. The present, that one simple moment, became enough. Do you remember the road trips? Just you and me, no agenda, no destination that really mattered. The world rushing by outside, while we talked about dreams that felt too big and plans that felt too impossible. Somehow, those drives taught me more about life than any classroom or boardroom ever could. It was the stillness between words, the shared silence that said everything words couldn't. You made even the quiet feel meaningful. Sometimes I think about those evenings when we'd just sit watching the sunset, not saying much at all. You'd lean your head against my shoulder. And for a while, everything was simple, no deadlines, no expectations, just two people existing in the same moment. Those are the kinds of memories that stay, the ones where nothing happened, but everything did. Because that's where love really lives, in the spaces between moments, in the things that don't need to be said. And then there were the difficult times. The arguments, the misunderstandings, the distance literal and emotional. But even those became part of the fabric of what we were. I think love is proven not when things are perfect, but when they aren't. When you choose to stay, to listen, to care, even when it's hard. You taught me that. You taught me that strength in love isn't about control, it's about trust. Trusting that the bond is bigger than the momentary storm. There were nights when I'd be halfway across the world, staring out at the horizon, and I'd think about you. Not with sadness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for every sunrise we watched together, every inside joke, every unspoken word that meant more than any speech ever could. Even when we were apart, the thought of you grounded me. It reminded me that no matter how vast the universe is, meaning comes from connection, from the people we love, and the memories we create with them. It's strange how memories work. They're fragile, intangible, yet somehow they're the most real thing we have. They survive everything, time, distance, even silence. I've carried ours with me like constellations, each one a point of light I can look to when everything else feels dark. You probably don't know it, but those memories have been my compass more times than I can count. If this really is my last message, I want you to know that our story, those memories, are what I'll hold on to the most. Not the triumphs, not the failures, not the noise of the world around me. Just us. The way you smiled when you caught me watching. To you. The way you made the ordinary feel like magic. The way you turned moments into meaning. And if someday all of this fades, the cities, the stars, the noise of human ambition, I hope somewhere in that vast silence, our memories still echo. Because in the end, what we shared wasn't just time spent together, it was time well lived. And that, more than anything, is what makes life worth remembering. There are things I wish I'd said sooner, moments I wish I'd handled differently, and times when silence seemed easier than honesty. Looking back now, I realize that silence isn't neutral. It leaves space for doubt, for distance, for the things that could have been understood if only I'd found the courage to speak. There's a kind of weight that comes with the words we never say, and I've carried that weight longer than I should have. There were days I got so lost in my own world, in the chase for what's next, that I forgot to simply stop and tell you how much you meant to me. I assumed you knew. I assumed my actions spoke loudly enough. But love isn't something that should ever have to be guessed. You deserve to hear it, often, in plain words, not hidden in gestures or buried under layers of distraction. If I could go back, I'd say it more, not as a routine, but as a truth reaffirmed every single day. You were my constant, even when everything else was in motion. There were moments when I chose logic over emotion, when I thought strength meant not showing vulnerability. I regret that. I regret every time I made you feel like you had to reach across a distance that I created. You were patient. You waited. You tried to understand a heart that sometimes forgot how to open up. You saw me in ways I didn't even see myself. and I wish I had met that gaze more often with the same openness. I know there were times when I hurt you not intentionally, but through absence, through distraction, through the kind of focus that can sometimes blur the people who matter most. You never demanded my time, and maybe that's why I took it for granted. But the truth is, every missed call, every unspoken apology, every delayed I love you mattered. They were small fractures that I wish I'd mended before they grew wider. Regret is a strange thing. It doesn't announce itself all at once. It creeps in quietly, in the still moments when the noise fades. It's not about guilt. It's about realization. It's the understanding that time is finite, that words can't always wait, that people aren't permanent. If I could go back, I'd spend less time trying to build a future and more time being fully present in the moments we already had. There were also things I felt but never found the right words for the depth of admiration I had for your strength, the way you carried your own dreams while still believing in mine. I don't think I ever said how much that inspired me. You made balance look effortless. You showed me that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means becoming more of who you are, together. You told me that love can be both soft and strong, quiet and powerful. I should have told you that more often. Sometimes I wonder if you ever truly knew how much I needed you, not as someone to fix me, but as someone who simply understood. You were the calm that made the storms bearable, the presence that reminded me why any of it mattered. And maybe I didn't say it enough because I was afraid. Afraid of how much I felt, afraid that saying it out loud would make it too real. But I see now that love doesn't diminish when it's spoken. It grows stronger. So yes, I have regrets. Not because of what we were, but because I didn't always show how deeply I understood what we had. There were things I left unsaid that should have been shouted, and there were moments I let slip by when I should have reached for you. But even in those mistakes, there was love, flawed, imperfect, human love. And if this truly is my last chance to speak from the heart, then let this be clear. You were never a passing chapter in my life. You were the story I should have written more carefully, the truth I should have spoken more boldly. If I've learned anything from all of this, it's that love deserves clarity. It deserves expression. It deserves to be felt fully while there's still time. So tonight, with no barriers left, I'll say what should have been said long ago. Thank you for loving me despite my silence, for hearing what I couldn't say, and for reminding me that even unspoken, real love still echoes. And if I could go back and change one thing, it wouldn't be the mistakes I made, it would be the moments I stayed quiet when I should have simply said, I love you. You know, I've often tried to understand love in the same way I understand everything else, to break it down, to find its logic, to study it like a system that could be decoded. But what I've realized, because of you, is that love isn't something that can be measured or analyzed. It isn't about equations or balance or symmetry. It's about gravity, invisible, undeniable, inescapable. It's the pull that keeps you anchored even when the world spins out of control. That's what your love was for me. It was gravity. It kept me grounded when everything else was moving at the speed of light. Your love was never loud, never demanding. It didn't need to announce itself or prove its worth. It was steady, the kind of strength that doesn't need attention. You showed up again and again in ways that words could never capture. Through every triumph and every fall, you never once made me feel like I had to be perfect to be loved. You saw the flaws, the restlessness, the parts of me I tried to hide. And you loved me anyway, not despite those things, but somehow through them. That kind of love changes a person. It humbles you. It makes you want to become worthy of it. You taught me that love isn't just about passion. It's about patience. It's not just about connection. It's about understanding. You never tried to fix me or shape me into something else. You just believed in me quietly, consistently, fearlessly. And that belief gave me strength I didn't know I had. You reminded me that real love doesn't need to control or possess. It simply is. It gives without counting. It listens without needing to respond. It exists not as a condition, but as a constant. There's a moment I think about often, one of those simple, almost invisible moments that becomes more meaningful the more time passes. I remember being exhausted, overwhelmed, convinced I couldn't handle another day, and you didn't give me advice. You didn't try to motivate me. You just sat beside me in silence, your hand on mine. No words, no expectations. That was enough. That was everything. You didn't have to say anything, because your presence was the message. You're not alone. And that's what love really is. Not grand declarations, but quiet presence. Your love was fearless, not because it didn't face fear, but because it faced it anyway. You loved through uncertainty, through distance, through moments when I wasn't easy to reach. You didn't let fear define you. You reminded me that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the greatest form of courage. You taught me that it's okay to break open, to let someone see the parts of you that aren't finished yet. Because that's where love does its best work, in the unfinished places. And what's even more remarkable is that your love didn't just change me, it changed the way I see the world. It made me realize that progress isn't only about what we build or where we go, it's about why we do it. It's about the people we love along the way, the ones who remind us what all the striving is for. You were that reminder. Every time I doubted myself, every time I thought the dream was too big or the risk too high, I think of you, your faith, your steadiness, and it made me brave again. There's something almost cosmic about that. Love, in its truest form, feels infinite. It stretches beyond time, beyond distance, beyond logic. It's not confined to the moments we share. It lives on in the space between them. Even now, when I think of you, I feel it, that same pull, that same warmth, that same gravity. It's proof that love doesn't end. It evolves. It becomes part of who we are. If I've learned anything from loving you, it's that the depth of love isn't measured by how long it lasts, but by how deeply it shapes us. Your love shaped me. It reminded me that no matter how vast the universe is, no matter how far we travel or how much we achieve, love will always be the greatest discovery of all. And if this message truly is the last one I'll ever give, then let it be known your love wasn't just something I experienced. It was something that awakened me. And because of that, even in your absence, you'll always be the force that keeps my heart in orbit. When I think about what I've learned from loving you, it's not just about emotion, it's about evolution. You changed how I understand the world, how I understand people, and how I understand myself. Before you, I thought progress meant movement, that if I kept pushing forward, faster, harder, I was growing. But you showed me that progress also means stillness, that sometimes the greatest leaps happen in the quiet moments when we simply allow ourselves to feel. You taught me that life isn't a race to the future, it's a conversation with the present. You taught me that success, in its truest form, isn't about what we build or how far we go, it's about what we leave behind in others. Legacy isn't measured in wealth, technology, or accomplishments. It's measured in the hearts we touch, the kindness we share, and the way we make others feel seen. You lived that truth effortlessly. You didn't need recognition or titles. You just moved through life with compassion and purpose, and that left a mark far deeper than any invention or discovery ever could. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned from you is that love and purpose aren't separate, they're connected. You showed me that it's possible to dream big while still staying human, to chase something vast while never losing touch with what's right in front of you. You taught me that empathy isn't a distraction, it's a form of intelligence. The ability to care, to listen, to understand, that's what drives real innovation, real change, real connection. There were moments when I used to believe that everything meaningful had to be grand, the next breakthrough, the next milestone, the next impossible goal. But you helped me see the beauty in the small things. The quiet mornings, the shared coffee, the laughter that filled a room for no reason. You reminded me that life's meaning isn't hidden in the extraordinary, it's built in the ordinary. And that realization, that shift in how I see the world, is one of the greatest gifts you could have given me. You also taught me something about resilience, not the kind that comes from ambition, but the kind that comes from love. You showed me that strength isn't about never breaking, it's about having the courage to heal. There were times when life felt heavy, when uncertainty clouded everything, and yet you never lost faith. You never let fear dictate your actions. You believed in me, in us, in what could be, even when logic said otherwise. And that kind of faith has power. It plants itself deep inside you and grows, long after the person who gave it to you is gone. Sometimes I think about what we leave behind when we're gone. Not the tangible things, not the buildings, or the ideas, or the legacies written in history books, but the intangible things, the feelings, the memories, the lessons. You'll never know how many of yours have stayed with me. You taught me to be present. You taught me that humility is not weakness, that empathy can coexist with ambition, that love is not a distraction from greatness, but the reason for it. You taught me that being human is the greatest honor of all. And maybe that's what legacy really is, not the echo of your name, but the continuation of your love through others. Because your love didn't stop with me. It became part of me. And everything I've done, everything I'll ever do, will carry some part of what you gave me. The way you listened, the way you believed, the way you loved without fear. That's the legacy you leave behind, one that doesn't fade with time, but multiplies. If I've learned anything, it's that love is the one force in this universe that doesn't obey the laws of decay. It doesn't fade, it transforms. It becomes energy that lives on through action, through kindness, through the quiet decision to keep believing in something good. You gave me that energy, you gave me that faith. And even if I never get another chance to say it, I want you to know the lessons you left me will never be forgotten. Because your love didn't just change my life, it changed my understanding of what it means to live. And that is a legacy that will outlast us both. If this really is the last message I'll ever send to you, I want it to be one that carries peace, not sadness, not regret, just quiet gratitude for what was real. Because no matter what comes next, no matter how much time separates us, or how far life takes us from this moment, the truth is simple. I loved you. And that love, every part of it, has been the most extraordinary journey of my life. I've come to understand that endings aren't always failures. Sometimes they're acknowledgments, a way of saying, this mattered, this was beautiful, this changed me. I used to think love had to last forever to be real, but I see now that it only has to be honest. And what we had was honest, imperfect, human, raw, and brilliant. It was full of laughter and silence, of strength and surrender. It was real in every way that counts. If I could freeze one thing in time, it wouldn't be a single memory, it would be the feeling of knowing you were there. That warmth in the air when you walked into a room. That calm I felt when you looked at me as if I wasn't just another person, but someone you truly saw. It's strange how love does that, how it teaches you to recognize yourself through someone else's eyes. You made me braver, you made me kinder, you made me human in a way I didn't know I needed to be. There were times I thought I was unstoppable, that I could conquer anything if I just pushed hard enough. But loving you taught me that not everything is meant to be conquered. Some things are meant to be cherished, to be held gently, to be respected for their fragility. You reminded me that strength isn't always about resistance. Sometimes it's about surrender. And that surrender isn't loss. It's love in its purest form. I hope you know that I'm not saying goodbye with bitterness or pain. I'm saying it with the kind of gratitude that fills the entire heart. The kind that comes from knowing I got to experience something rare. You and I shared something that can't be repeated, can't be replaced. It wasn't just about the time we spent together. It was about the way we grew together. The way you mirrored the best parts of me back to myself when I couldn't see them. If life is a journey through both chaos and calm, then you were the moment of stillness in mine. You were the proof that, in a world obsessed with speed and success, love is still the only thing worth slowing down for. And even now, as I say these words, I can feel that same quiet peace I felt when you were near. It's like you're here, not beside me, but within me, in the thoughts I carry, in the way I see the world differently now. I don't know where life will take you next, but I hope you keep shining that same light, the one that guided me when I didn't even realize I was lost. I hope you never doubt how deeply you are capable of changing people, how effortlessly your love leaves echoes in the hearts it touches. You have this rare kind of magic, not the kind that dazzles, but the kind that heals. The kind that reminds people that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to feel deeply, even when the world tells you not to. If this is truly the last time I get to speak to you, I don't want to fill it with sorrow. I want to fill it with hope. Because I believe love doesn't end. It transforms. It becomes memory, energy, legacy. It becomes part of who we are, woven into the way we speak, the way we listen, the way we live. And I'll carry that part of you with me always. In every decision I make, in every quiet night when I look up at the stars and think about how lucky I was to find you in this vast universe. Sometimes I imagine a future where you're walking under a sky full of stars, and maybe for just a moment you think of me, not with sadness, but with a small smile. And Maybe you'll remember that once someone loved you with everything they had, not perfectly but completely. And maybe that thought will bring you a kind of peace, the same peace I feel now as I say these words. Love, after all, isn't something we own. It's something we share for as long as we're allowed to. And when it's time to let go, we don't lose it, we release it back into the universe, trusting that it will find its way into new forms, new hearts, new beginnings. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't disappear, it evolves. So if this is the last message I ever give you, let it be this. Thank you. Thank you for being my constant in a world that never stopped moving. Thank you for teaching me that even in the face of uncertainty, love remains the most certain thing we have. Thank you for reminding me that no matter how far we go, love is what gives everything else its meaning. And wherever you are, wherever life takes you, I hope you carry one truth with you, that my love for you wasn't a fleeting moment, but a lifetime's worth of understanding, gratitude, and peace. Because even when the words fade and the world moves on, my heart will still be quietly saying your name among the stars.